So we're back with another video. Today we're going to be learning the basics of feathers and how to identify them. First, we're going to start with the basics of where the feathers go and stuff. Okay, let's get something straight. These are all wing feathers. This right here is a tail feather. Now, how do you tell wing and tail feathers apart? Well, it's very simple. It's just the certain basic details that you have to know. So, if you look at a wing feather, you can see that it's kind of curved. It's just the positioning of it built for a certain thing, which is flapping. This one right here is a rock pigeon feather. This one is, I have no idea because I got this one actually from the store along with some other ones. And this is the feather we found just a few episodes back, which was earlier today. Now, tail feathers are sometimes like they're square. They all have something in common. Hold on, let me sort them out. Okay, first we're gonna learn about tail feathers. So this is a rock pigeon tail feather. This is a Saitohi, northern flickered red shaft, and African collared dove. Now, it's very hard to explain, harder than I thought, in fact. But we're going to start with tail feathers. Now, I lined them up. This is the outside of the tail, and this is the center of the tail. Now, it seems to flow perfectly, right? Seems to flow quite nicely. Now, if you look, you can see how it flows perfectly, but I'm going to tell you why this is not how you line it up. So, like, the bird would be, if this was the tail of the bird, this is the center of the tail. Okay, the other side here, it would look on the other side right there. Now, if this was the tail and it was flying like this, then if you look right here, it wouldn't make any sense. This, when you're lining up a tail, this part right here is always going to go on this side. So, the ones on this side are always the one, just this is the outside of the tail. I am stuttering today. Okay, so this is how you line them up. You line them up like this. Now, you can tell they're all tail feathers, and now there's one simple thing you have to know if you're putting it in the right order. It's like a flip book, but sometimes that's not always the case. Like even me, I have some missing feathers that go between these two, but we're just sticking with these. Now, sometimes the easiest way of lining these up is looking at the pattern and seeing that it perfectly lines up. But sometimes that's not the case. In most birds it is, but the ones that don't really have patterns, it's hard to tell. Like the rock pigeon feather. Now, if you look, okay, so this is what I call the stem of the feather. If you look as it goes in the pattern, the center, like the stem, goes slightly to the left, and then it keeps going, and it turns out to look like that. So it's like a flip book. If you stop and look at one of them and like go across, then you'll notice that that's exactly how it works. Now, this is the African collared dove, which I probably mentioned before. I don't know because I'm not keeping up, but I'm going to show you some other different bird tail patterns so then you can see what they all look like. So this is northern flicker. Look at their feathers, you'll notice that they have that under, like this is the underside and this is the top of the feather. I also have rock pigeon. Look at rock pigeon, you could see that it's square. This is a side feather. Don't have too many of these ones exactly, but yeah. Wing feathers and tail feathers are very different. So you can see this one here is a leading primary. Nope, this is a mid-range primary. So the mid-range primary wing feathers are the ones that are like not so sharp. They're kind of sharp, but they're also kind of like not sharp. This is a center tail feather. You guys already seen it. This is a side feather, and this is a leading primary wing feather. What's a leading primary wing feather? I'll get to that right now. Okay. Took me forever to line this up. So, if you look first right here, the first 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are the leading primaries. Now, the next 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the mid-range primaries. Okay, so you have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Leading primaries, mid-range primaries. After the 2 4s, after the 8 first feathers, you could see the transitional primaries. These two will be between the ones, like a barrier between the straight looking feathers and then the curved ones. The curved ones are the secondaries. Now you guys already know, like, I always called these secondaries too, but now I know. So all the curved ones are secondaries, and there are way more than this. And the ones that start to get straight again are the trailing secondaries. So there's primaries and secondaries. They all have their own sections, but you could just say primaries and then secondaries once they get curved. These are all secondaries, these are all primaries. Took me also a very long time to line this one up. So, you have to be very keen because sometimes when you collect feathers like this, and I didn't hurt any birds collecting these feathers. Finding feathers like this means it could have been like a hawk or something, and that's how I found these. A sharp-shinned hawk caught a Woodhouse's scrub jay, the one you saw in my last video. If you watched it, then I think you should go check it out if you haven't. Go see the video. Leading primaries will always be the first 4, but I don't have them all, so this is how I can tell. First 4, these are leading primaries, okay? This one right here is also another leading primary, but I found this one separate from the other ones. And again, right here, a mid-range primary and the secondaries. This is a mid-range primary, not a transitional primary. The transitional primaries, they're the ones that kind of look like these and kind of look like these. This one's just a mid-range. Secondaries are all these ones right here. The ones that are starting to get straight, which are these ones right here, these are the trailing secondaries. And they get smaller like this. This is the whole wing. Putting them together means you have to have them on a certain way. Okay, so I have lined up all the leading primaries, but the extra leading primary that I've found, which is actually the exact same one as the last one, I'm gonna take it out for the sake of us getting the right, the normal wing, because usually there's like only 4, not 5. If there is a 5th one, it's gonna be this one right here. This is what you call a short leading primary. The short leading primaries are always going to be in the front of the feather. This is the other wing, and I don't really have all of them. I only have these 2, along with some other secondaries and mid-range primaries, but this one always goes before this one. I don't have the one for the other wing, but this is here just to show you guys. Now we're adding the only mid-range primary. I don't have all of them, but I have enough to make it look like a wing. So you're just gonna place it on carefully, just like that. Do the same thing for all the secondaries. And the rest of the feathers has to have a perfect curve to it. You can't put them on like this. You have to make sure the bottom of the feather is close together like that. It's a process. the more you get into it, you'll see that the more feathers you add, the wing will start to come in shape. And again, this isn't all of them, so. This is the most common look for a whole wing, but this isn't all of them. Of course, like you know, usually you have 4, like our fingers, the way every bird has that. And this is the first 4. Then you can see how it proceeds. It's beautiful. But there is one problem with finding these feathers. Oh, would you look at that? I just found a shorter primary. Okay, so that means... Whoa. These 4... Okay, wow. I'm very tired. Okay, so... This one is a short primary. They come in different sizes. These are actually the leading primary, so I didn't make any mistakes. The last thing I want to point out on this video is that people find blue jay feathers often, but get mixed up. In fact, that's what my next video is going to be about, which I'll probably post it tonight too. So, okay, so if you look at blue jay feathers, they have stripes. Sometimes they have white tips, only the side feathers. This is a center feather, but it does have a very, very small white tip. Now, if you look at the Woodhouse's scrub jay tail feather, it's more pointy and mostly the same size, but it doesn't have any stripes and it's just blue. It's actually close to the same color of blue. One fact is that these feathers are actually gray and they look close to be blue.